Monica, Ryan's a total wreck from all the drinking he did to cover for me. If you don't mind, can you bring some hangover meds? The message came from Amy, Ryan's former classmate and now an intern. I had just swallowed a painkiller for my cramps when I read it. The message included the location, the private room number, and a photo of Ryan. His flushed face was resting on her lap, his usually stern profile looking unusually docile in his drunken state. I tried to move, but he clung to me and wouldn't let go. "Monica, please come get him," Amy's message read, her tone helpless. If she weren't the only one aware of my marriage to Ryan, if she hadn't pursued him since college, maybe I wouldn't detect the smugness hidden beneath her words. I hadn't replied to Ryan's mother, Connie, who had texted earlier. "Monica, remind Ryan to drink less. Come home this weekend. I'll make something nice for both of you." I sighed, resigned, and got out of bed. Every step sent pain through my lower back. While waiting for a cab, it began to drizzle. I didn't bother going back for an umbrella. Halfway there, I ducked under a shelter to buy the medicine. When I arrived at the private room, slightly out of breath, I said, "Ryan, I brought some hangover medicine." But as I opened the door, the warm air hit me, cutting me off. Ryan was already sitting up, shoulders squared, leaning on Amy. He had been frowning since I said his name, and now his tone was sharp. "Who told you to come here?" The mood grew tense. All eyes turned toward me, assessing the unwelcome guest. A few people exchanged glances, stealing looks at Amy. Amy, our junior from college, had recently joined the company. Despite being just an intern, her closeness with Ryan earned her the unofficial title of the boss's girl. I had quietly expressed my discomfort, but Ryan dismissed it. "Amy's competent, and we both know her well. Why care about idle rumors? Besides, she's been after me for 3 years. If I wanted her, don't you think something would have happened by now?" The implication was obvious. None of this concerned me. Why is she even here? Doesn't she usually skip these events? She must be cozying up to Ryan to avoid layoffs. So tacky, someone whispered. My grip on the medicine bag tightened as humiliation swept over me. The cold look on Ryan's face stopped me from saying his name. Instead, I forced a smile and said, "I heard you were drunk, and since I was nearby, I brought some medicine." "Who told you that?" "Who asked you to come?" Ryan repeated, his eyes icy as he looked me over. Even drunk, he remembered to keep our relationship a secret. He had insisted on a hidden marriage to avoid any potential backlash on the company. Pain shot through my abdomen, making me double over. I didn't have the strength or will to answer. "Oh, Ryan, what are you saying? I asked Monica to come with the medicine for you. If an intern like me can attend a team event, surely Monica, a senior, can too, right?" Amy pouted and playfully punched his arm as if defending me. Ryan's expression finally relaxed. "Thank you for the medicine," he said, using the tone of a boss showing concern for an employee. "If you're not feeling well, you should stay home and rest." This fake concern drew murmurs of disapproval. "She's standing right here. How sick can she be?" But only I caught the warning in his eyes. As I closed the door, I noticed Amy's triumphant smirk, unmasked and smug. She was thrilled to be by Ryan's side once again, playing the caring confidant. In the past, I would have confronted Ryan and caused a scene, but he had always accused me of mixing personal emotions with work. He never understood why Amy's presence unsettled me. After a fight, Ryan would be the one to leave, suggesting we take time to cool off. No matter how late it was, he'd spend the night at the company lounge. If we crossed paths at work the next day, he'd avoid my eyes before I had the chance to look at him. If I didn't apologize, the cold silence continued until I gave in. "Ryan, I submitted the project application you helped me with last night. You must be exhausted. Here, I brought breakfast," Amy would chirp, cheerful as always. She never left his side, and he never saw anything wrong with it. In the end, his indifference left me to apologize and smooth things over. But this time I wouldn't make a scene. By the time I returned home, the drizzle had stopped. My body ached from being soaked. I curled up in pain and stayed awake through the night. Eventually, Ryan came home. After washing up, he sat beside me. The scent of alcohol faded. His warm hand gently massaged my lower abdomen through my nightgown. "Still hurting?" he asked softly. I didn't respond. He lay down, pulled me into his arms, and we huddled together on the sofa. Monica, did I make you uncomfortable today? With everyone there, you shouldn't have shown up unannounced. And about Amy, don't overthink it, okay? Because she's been pursuing you for 3 years? If you wanted her, I wouldn't even be here. I cut him off before he could repeat his usual excuse. Ryan froze, letting out a frustrated sigh. Monica, calm down. Stop with the sarcasm. Oh, I'm sarcastic? I shoved his hand away, the pain flaring up as I sat up straighter. My voice was sharp. Isn't that your favorite line? I'm just agreeing with you, aren't I? Without needing a mirror, I knew my face was pale. His tone grew colder. I drank a lot, and there's too much work at the office. I'm exhausted. Can't you, as my wife, offer me some basic trust and support? Drank a lot. For whose sake? For me? I replied. I can't do this, Ryan. Let's take a break. For the first time, I said it before he could. Despite the pain in my body, I felt an unexpected sense of relief. He stared at me, rubbing his temples, his voice hardening. How long are you going to keep this up? I'm not keeping anything up. Let's get a divorce. I can move out now. Divorce? He repeated, his expression faltering. Don't be absurd. He grabbed my hand to stop me. Monica, you know my mom's health is fragile. Are you bringing this up just to hurt her? Is that a threat? I shot back. I'd never known my biological parents. Connie had once been my sponsor, and after Ryan and I got together, she treated me like her own daughter. Her weak heart couldn't handle much stress. In the end, I gave in. Ryan, I'll keep up the act of being your loving wife, but this marriage has to end. I got up, walked to the guest room, and locked the door behind me. The room was dim, with no dehumidifier, but lying on the bed, I felt an overwhelming sense of freedom. After a while, Ryan knocked, his voice firm and low. Monica, stop this childish behavior. He knocked for a long time, but I didn't open the door. Before he left, he sent a message. Monica, you know I have a short fuse. I've tolerated enough. Stop pushing your luck. Ryan didn't come home for the next few days, likely staying at the company lounge again. Everything in his daily routine seemed to reflect Amy's presence, something I saw clearly from her constant social media updates. He's been in a bad mood lately. Luckily, I know how to mix drinks. Spent the whole night drinking with him, hope it cheered him up a bit. First time buying men's underwear. The clerk asked the size, and I panicked. How should I know? It's not like I'm buying them for my husband. He's a good cook, but only because I buy ingredients he knows how to use. Their interactions hinted at the kind of familiarity that develops from spending a lot of time together. The comments on her posts encouraged her to pursue Ryan, some jokingly referring to her as the future boss's wife. I pretended not to see any of it. Then Amy tagged me in a post. Monica, you know me best. Everyone's misunderstanding. Help me clear this up. Busy with a project proposal, I simply replied, best of luck. Ryan was probably waiting for me to apologize and soften my stance. Instead, I acknowledged Amy's tag and liked all her posts. Let the rumors spread. I didn't have time for this nonsense. The company was swamped. The largest firm in San Francisco, OS Group, had announced a major project. Winning it could mean not just massive profits, but also a chance for our company to go public. Unfortunately, we didn't even meet the qualifications to bid. After a recent meeting, Ryan invited key staff to dinner at a hotel, including me. Amy sat next to him, whispering in his ear, her laughter drawing a rare smile from his otherwise stoic face. Others exchanged knowing glances, amused. The conversation shifted to OS Group. Out of nowhere, Amy brought up my name. Monica, you won't believe how destined you are to cross paths with OS Group's CEO, Matthew. I was puzzled. How could I possibly be connected to Matthew? I have a well-connected friend, Amy said, standing to show everyone a photo. It was of Matthew's first love, and the resemblance to me was startling. Even I was surprised. You look so much like his first love. If you charmed him, maybe we'd get an invitation to bid. She winked mischievously. Oh, Amy, you're forgetting, someone added. Monica's so flat you wouldn't know her front from her back. Even if her face is covered, how could she charm anyone? Amy's laughter encouraged the sales manager beside her, who chuckled loudly, and the room erupted in laughter. Though I consistently led the sales department, they assumed my success came from underhanded methods. Normally, I ignored these rumors. What hurt was Ryan's silence. He watched Amy, his expression indulgent. Emboldened, Amy displayed more gossip on her phone. "What a coincidence! Matthew's here tonight," she exclaimed, turning to me with mock surprise. "Monica, sorry, just kidding." "Oh, lighten up, Monica. Can't you take a joke?" "She's just stating facts," someone added. Their whispers didn't stop. My chest tightened. I downed another drink and snapped, "Fine! Which room is he in?" Ryan's cold, unreadable eyes lifted. "Enough of this nonsense," he said, ending the conversation. I thought that would be the end of it. But as we stood near the hotel entrance, we saw a man approaching the fountain. A valet held the door of a luxury car open with a slight bow. The man heading toward the vehicle was none other than Matthew, a face recognizable from numerous financial magazines and familiar to almost everyone present. "Monica, weren't you going to give it a try?" Amy's quiet voice urged me forward. All eyes turned to me. This time, Ryan spoke with a hint of condescension. "Let's not embarrass her." "The alcohol in my system made me feel unsteady," Amy smiled smugly. "You should thank me," she said. Her gaze pierced through me. "Fine, I'll do it," I replied, gathering my resolve under everyone's watchful eyes. I walked up to Matthew and said, "Excuse me, I hope I'm not disturbing you." He turned around, looking surprised. "And you are?" I wasn't sure if it was my imagination, but for a brief moment he seemed slightly stunned by my face. His driver, a large man, immediately stepped forward to block me, but Matthew lifted his hand, signaling the driver to step back. He asked kindly what I needed. As I looked closer, his striking good looks left me momentarily speechless. The cold air sobered me, and the last bit of warmth from the alcohol faded away. Reality hit me. Why was I standing here in front of this untouchable business magnate? A chill ran through me. I quickly introduced myself and expressed my respect, asking if he had 5 minutes to spare. I didn't dare to request a bidding opportunity. I just wanted to escape the humiliation. "I'm sorry, but I have another appointment soon," he said gently, a slight crease forming on his brow as if declining was impolite. He entered the car, and I, feeling utterly defeated, mumbled an apology and turned away. Amy couldn't contain her laughter. "Monica, are you drunk? I'm sorry, but that was hilarious." The others stifled their chuckles. "Monica, think about the company. What impression do you think Matthew has of us now?" Ryan's voice was tight with barely concealed anger. I glared at him, on the verge of slapping him. But before anything could happen, the luxury car circled back and stopped right in front of me. The rear window rolled down. "Miss Monica, if you don't mind, we can continue our conversation in the car," Matthew said, emphasizing "we" and giving a small, awkward cough. He seemed both shy and hopeful. "Monica, don't get carried away. Going with him will only cause problems for the company," Ryan warned, his teeth clenched. Ignoring him, I climbed into the car. As we drove off, I caught a glimpse of the stunned faces behind me. Uneasiness settled over me as I tried to get comfortable. Matthew was not as distant as Ryan had suggested. He was surprisingly kind, chatting with me about OS Group's current project. Even though he was in a hurry, he insisted on dropping me off at home. "Goodbye, Miss Monica, until we meet again," he said, opening the door for me. His gaze was intense, as though his words carried a genuine promise. When I entered my apartment, the place was completely dark. A figure sat stiffly on the sofa. I turned on the lights and went to freshen up. Ryan approached me, his voice sharp. "It's so late, where were you?" I didn't reply. He pressed on. "Monica, just you and him? Alone? What do you take me for?" "Not alone. His driver was there too," I said calmly, beginning my skincare routine. "What did you talk about?" he demanded, anger flickering in his eyes. It had been a long time since I'd seen him this worked up. The irony struck me. He could openly flirt with Amy, but I couldn't even share a car ride with another man. In that moment, our roles felt reversed. I saw myself as I used to be, desperately vying for his attention. "What does it matter? Don't act like you caught me in the act. Compared to your public display with your dear intern, I can't exactly compete." He froze, then shook his head in frustration, disappointment etched on his face. "Monica, is this really about Amy? You got into his car just to provoke me? Is this revenge?" "If that's what you believe, you'll be disappointed. This isn't a game. What happens between us stays between us." Ryan's insistence on boundaries likely stemmed from an incident when Amy misreported data for my project, causing a major loss for the company. During the confrontation, Amy cried and hinted that I'd always disliked her and made things difficult. We had already argued about her many times, and Ryan had taken her side, shielding her. Later, he scolded me for picking on an intern, especially a former classmate. "You've changed," he had sighed heavily as if I were beyond saving. Anger flared up within me. "If that's how you feel, then let's divorce. And don't use your mother's health as an excuse. I care about her like she's my own, and I'll still take care of her after we're done." "Monica, are you serious?" he asked, his voice slow and incredulous. "If we divorce, I won't ever come back." "Without a second thought," I replied. "I've made up my mind." He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the sound echoed through the empty apartment. Not long after, Amy bombarded me with messages. "Ryan is such a good man, and you don't appreciate him. It's late, and you've upset him so much he's back at the lounge drinking." "Oh," I replied. "Monica, I'm saying this because you were my senior in school. I've always respected your place with Ryan and never crossed a line. I chased him for 3 years, and he kept his distance because of you," she continued, her voice message filled with sympathy for Ryan and blame toward me. "At the last class reunion, he took pity on me when I lost my job and gave me this internship. I don't understand, Monica. What more could you possibly want from him?" These words, of course, would eventually make their way to Ryan's ears. It wouldn't be the first time she conveniently leaked selectively edited screenshots from chats. Smirking, I replied to her with an emoji that read, "Idiot," then promptly blocked her. Afterward, I absent-mindedly responded to a message from Matthew. We had exchanged contacts that night, and he'd occasionally reach out to chat about casual topics like meals or daily routines. Initially, I thought he might see me as a substitute for his first love, but his gentle, almost brotherly demeanor made me feel unexpectedly at ease. One message stuck with me. "If there's ever anything you need, you can always reach out." Though I debated whether to take him up on it, I ultimately chose to keep my distance. To my surprise, just days later, our company received an invitation to bid on a major project. Yet strangely, Ryan wasn't pleased when the news reached the sales department. He stormed in, his eyes blazing with fury. "Monica, step outside. We need to talk," he barked, dragging me out of the office while our colleagues exchanged puzzled looks. At the end of the hallway, he rounded on me. "Did you sleep with him?" he demanded, his bloodshot eyes and pulsing temple revealing his anger. Smack! I finally finished what I hadn't the other night, slapping him hard enough to make his head turn. "Hit me for him, will you?" he spat bitterly, pressing his tongue against his cheek. "If you didn't seduce him, then how did we magically get invited to bid?" "Ryan!" Amy rushed over, fussing over him and touching his face. "Monica, have you lost your mind? You cheat on him and then slap him?" But this time, no one sided with her. Matthew had appeared silently, standing at a distance with a calm smile. "I didn't realize your company was this lively," he remarked smoothly. "It's surprising you don't have a bigger presence here in San Francisco." Matthew's tone was steady and unreadable as he continued. "I actually came to discuss the bidding process, but I dislike this sort of atmosphere. I'm unfamiliar with your company's remote location. Miss Monica, would you mind helping me find my way out?" The tension was palpable. Everyone could feel Matthew's displeasure. "Apologies for the scene, Mr. Matthew," I said quickly, eager to leave. But Ryan's grip on my wrist tightened painfully. His eyes burned with anger. "Monica, the bidding opportunity, or me? Which will it be?" "Are you ready to make a choice?" I asked simply. His hesitation was brief, and then, as if by reflex, he let go. I let out a cold laugh and walked out with Matthew. Once outside the office, he invited me to dinner. During our meal, I asked why he had extended the bidding opportunity to our small company. He cut his steak, swapped it with mine, and gave a faint smile. "Miss Monica, you're a smart woman. I told you, if you ever need anything, I'm here." It was strange. Even if he did see me as a stand-in, he didn't make me feel uneasy. "Could you withdraw our company's bidding qualification?" I finally asked, voicing the question that had been nagging at me. To my surprise, he agreed without hesitation, then changed the topic to something lighter. The restaurant's soft lighting cast a warm glow, and I noticed his ears turned slightly red as he spoke. I realized that whenever he addressed me, the redness deepened. Meanwhile, news of OS Group inviting a relatively unknown company to bid spread quickly, drawing significant media attention. Ryan's company seized the moment, using it to climb to new heights. He'd finally achieved success. Still, I trusted Matthew. I believed he would honor his word, and I had a hunch about his true intentions. Amid all this, I finalized my divorce from Ryan. At first, he clung to the negotiations over asset division, but when the bidding opportunity was mentioned, he fell silent. "Monica, don't regret this," he said bitterly as he left. But I only felt relief. I looked forward to quickly settling the financial details. After a few dinners with Matthew, I realized he was the perfect dining companion, pleasant, insightful, and trustworthy. He asked about my family, past relationships, and future goals, but he never overstepped any boundaries. Something about him made me feel safe, as though I could trust him completely. Besides, I didn't have many people in my life to begin with. My closest friend from high school had drifted away over time, and I never truly connected with anyone I met afterward. During college, I spent most of my time in the library, focused on maintaining my scholarship, always moving through life alone. I remembered one particular incident. A male classmate I barely knew once confessed to me with a heart-shaped arrangement of candles outside my dorm. I was flustered, unsure of how to respond, as he held my hand and rambled on about his feelings. The crowd around us recorded the scene, cheering for me to say yes. Ryan had intervened that day. Already a top student and rising entrepreneur, he was someone everyone admired. Passing by, he called a few friends over, and together they blew out the candles. Looking at the guy, he frowned and said firmly, "If you really care about someone, you wouldn't do something so foolish. Don't let me catch you bothering her again." The way he stood up for me, paired with my admiration for his success, made me fall for him almost immediately. Remembering those moments, I drank more than I intended. Normally I could handle my alcohol, but tonight I felt tipsy. Matthew hesitated several times, but didn't stop me. "Why didn't you stop me?" I asked. He replied thoughtfully, "It seemed like drinking would make you happier. Besides, I can ensure you won't feel awful tomorrow." "Oh, and how do you plan to manage that?" "My mother's hangover tea is miraculous. I've been working hard to perfect it," he said with quiet pride, his dignified tone tinged with a childlike eagerness. The contrast was so unexpected that I burst into laughter and couldn't stop. He blushed, looking embarrassed. "Is it really that funny?" he asked. I gazed into his eyes, almost losing myself in their gentle warmth and shy charm. The atmosphere shifted, a subtle tension lingering in the air. Quickly, I looked away, steering the conversation toward how I'd met Ryan and the progression of our relationship. I think I genuinely loved him, even if Amy was like a thorn in my throat, always making it hard to breathe, I confessed. Matthew replied, "But he treated you so poorly. Why didn't you leave earlier?" Maybe it's the sunk cost fallacy. Emotions work like that. The more you invest, the harder it is to walk away. By the time I realized I needed to leave, I was already caught up in memories of the good times and a stubborn refusal to give up. I sighed. "But now it's time. This divorce is long overdue." Divorce? His eyes brightened. "Why do you look happier about it than I do?" I teased. "Oh, not at all," he said, a bit too quickly, but his smile betrayed him, widening into a grin. Late that night, I got a message from Matthew. When you finally meet someone you've admired for so long, you don't have to separate her from the image in your mind because she is that image. Was his first love back in his life? I felt genuinely happy for him, though a strange heaviness settled in my heart. Lately, I'd learned more about his first love from gossip articles. She had been a childhood friend, someone he'd quietly adored for years. Just as I liked his post, it disappeared. A week later, I attended an out-of-town event. "I'd like to introduce you to some friends," Matthew had said beforehand. To my surprise, his friends were an older couple. The man's face was familiar, a well-known figure often seen in the news. He greeted me warmly, his smile full of emotion. The woman beside him, whom I didn't recognize, stared at me, tears filling her eyes. To my shock, she looked strikingly like me. A strange feeling washed over me. Could she be Matthew's first love? But the age didn't add up. Seeing my confusion, Matthew introduced them formally. In moments, everything clicked into place, and I realized who I was to them. "We've been searching for you since you disappeared," the woman cried, pulling me into a tight embrace. The man comforted her gently, his eyes red with emotion. Since I could remember, I'd lived in an orphanage. They explained I had gone missing during a kidnapping attempt, escaping, but losing my way, likely suffering memory loss. Once they calmed down, they softly invited me to live with them. I felt overwhelmed, not unhappy, just stunned. "Aunt Rachel, Uncle Carl, please give her some time," Matthew said gently, noticing my dazed expression and leading them away with reassuring words. "Your first love?" I finally asked, curious. He smiled, showing me his phone. That photo the tabloids took was an AI-generated image, a guess at how you might look as an adult. The woman in the image did resemble me, but there was a definite artificial quality. We chatted casually after that, Matthew sharing childhood stories. Though I couldn't remember any of it, one thought lingered. He really did see me as a sister. When I snapped back to the present, he noticed my distraction. After saying his goodbyes, he left, but forgot his phone. I hurried downstairs to catch him. "You forgot your phone," I called. A bitter voice interrupted me. "Monica?" I looked up to see Ryan and Amy entering the hotel lobby. Ryan's eyes shifted between Matthew and me, his face darkening with each second. "What are you doing here with him?" he demanded, his face twisting as if he'd been betrayed. Amy, who had been smirking, suddenly whimpered, "Ryan, you're hurting me." Snapping out of his rage, he let go of her hand and stormed over, demanding, "Monica, explain this." Matthew frowned and stepped in front of me, ready to speak, but I stopped him. "Just because your mind is filthy doesn't mean everyone else's is. Maybe you should worry about yourself," I shot back. Handing Matthew his phone, I turned and walked away. Ryan followed, calling out, "Monica, I was just here with her for business." But his voice and unfinished explanation were cut off as the elevator doors closed. The house Ryan and I once shared had been awarded to me. When I got back, the living room was a wreck. Broken bottles littered the floor, and the sharp smell of alcohol filled the air. The heavy curtains blocked out any light, casting an eerie gloom over the room. Ryan was curled up on the floor. As he heard the door open, he scrambled up. "Back already? Did you have fun last night?" His words were sharp, meant to wound. "Is that all you can think of?" I shot back, my tone dripping with sarcasm. The keypad beeped, and the door opened. Amy entered, carrying breakfast and wearing the loungewear I'd recently bought. Seeing me, she rushed to Ryan's side, glaring. "Monica, what did you say to him? He stayed up all night waiting for you." Ryan tried to signal her to stop, but she continued. "Even if you're divorcing, it's not finalized. And here you are sleeping with someone else. You have no self-respect. He loved you for years, and this is how you repay him?" I laughed, unfazed. "How many nights have you two spent together? I move out and you assume I'm sleeping around? What about you two?" Ryan's face darkened, and Amy flushed. "You," she stammered. I cut her off. "Since when do you get to speak for him? Oh, and my clothes, they fit you well enough." Ryan shouted, "Amy's just here to help. Nothing happened, so watch your mouth." I struck him with all the force I could muster. "When she insults me, I'm supposed to tolerate it, but if I speak up, you get furious? Ryan, my biggest regret is ever getting involved with you. Don't reach out until the divorce is final." That's it. As I spoke, his anger drained away, replaced by a panicked expression that left me momentarily speechless. It seemed like he was finally realizing I was truly leaving. As I opened the door, I heard him trying to hold back his tears. "Monica, But I didn't stay to hear the rest. A few days later, I put the house up for sale and emailed my resignation to the company. With the generous financial support of my parents after our reunion, I was able to open a small boutique and finally pursue my dream. Reflecting on my time at Ryan's company, I felt like a jack of all trades, shuffled between departments from design to sales. But the only thing holding me back had been my own hesitation. I was capable of more. I deserved more. On the day of the OS Group bid, it was as though Ryan's company had vanished. They didn't appear anywhere in the bidding records. Their fleeting success crumbled, along with the partnerships based solely on Matthew's association. In his desperation, Ryan launched a media campaign accusing OS Group of abandoning their partnerships, breaking agreements, and causing him major losses. To address the growing controversy, Matthew held a press conference. I thought he might let Ryan's arrogance destroy him, and it worked perfectly. Recently, Ryan had been using OS Group's reputation to climb the social ladder in San Francisco, brushing off any guilt and falling back into his smug ways. Before I blocked him, his final message accused me of throwing myself at Matthew, confident his bid was secure. He thought Matthew would compensate him, as if I were some possession he'd lost. But he forgot I was never his to begin with. His twisted entitlement led to his collapse. Before the press conference, I warned Matthew, "Please don't stir things up because of me." I didn't want him to risk his reputation for my sake. Lately, Ryan had become like a rabid dog, sending incoherent texts and calling from random numbers, 1 minute declaring love, the next hurling insults. "Monica, I don't think you understand what it means to regain something precious. For you, I'd do anything." Matthew's words weren't romantic, yet they carried a depth that words alone couldn't express. His calm face held an unshakable resolve. When the press conference started, the flashes from cameras were blinding. Matthew responded to the reporters with poise, every word carefully chosen. Finally, he straightened his tie, looked directly into the camera, and declared, "Ryan's unfaithfulness and lack of integrity make him unsuitable as an OS Group partner. That's the bottom line." Suddenly, Ryan pushed through the crowd, his face contorted with rage. "And what about you, Matthew? Aren't you afraid of being exposed for stealing another man's wife?" Only 3 days had passed since the bidding process, but he looked unkempt and defeated, a picture of betrayal. The journalists buzzed with excitement, cameras clicking like predators sensing prey. Matthew gave a faint, dismissive smile. "You're mistaken, Ryan. You're already divorced. Miss Monica is an extraordinary woman. If you describe her suitors so poorly, what should we call your own infidelities?" "Stop dodging the question! This whole bidding process was—" Ryan shouted, struggling against the security guards. Matthew didn't waver. "Some believe I have a personal motive here, and in a way, they're correct." He gestured for me to come forward, took my hand, his grip trembling slightly, and announced to the press, "Miss Monica is the long-lost member of the Spencer family and my first love. I am pursuing her." Ryan stopped struggling and stared at me, stunned. The day I received my divorce certificate, I was elated. "Matthew, dinner's on me," I said, calling him immediately. As I ended the call and turned around, Ryan was suddenly there, too close, dark circles under his eyes and his face worn out. "Monica, why didn't you tell me you found your birth parents? If I'd known, maybe I wouldn't be in this mess." His voice was a mix of resentment and flattery. For a moment, I felt disoriented. The man who had once promised me, "Monica, when my business succeeds, I'll give you the grandest wedding," was gone. The most frightening thing wasn't two people growing to hate each other, but realizing that while you thought you were progressing together, your partner was silently falling apart. You sensed the decay but convinced yourself it would improve. That wasn't my fault. Matthew once said, "Monica, you deserve the best." Looking at this hollow version of Ryan, I replied, "I didn't tell you because it doesn't concern you." As Matthew walked me to the car, Ryan yelled desperately behind us, "What about my mom? She treated you like her own daughter. Now that you have wealthy parents, you're just going to abandon us? Was I just a joke to you?" 2 years passed in a flash. My boutique was small but thrived steadily. Word of mouth spread, loyal clients returned, and referrals brought new business. One longtime client left a lasting impression. She claimed to be in her 50s, but looked no older than her early 20s. She had a carefree beauty that suggested a life filled with love and privilege. She consistently brought in new customers, most of whom seemed to be her extended family. Each month, she arrived with parents, in-laws, or distant cousins, always placing sizable custom orders. On the day Matthew proposed, I had a feeling about what was going to happen, yet I still acted surprised. "Please marry me, wait, let me try that again. Be mine," he said, kneeling, his usual composure nowhere to be found. "Jumping straight to a proposal, huh?" I teased. He looked at me, his eyes filled with worry. "You don't want to commit to me?" "It's not that," I replied, pretending to hesitate. "I just haven't met your family yet. You know I've been married before." "You've already met them?" Matthew said, pulling out a picture of his mother, my longtime client. "My entire family already adores you, Monica." My eyes widened. "But she just told me yesterday that you're unreliable and that if a better man showed up, I should upgrade." And if not, I should keep you in check. Matthew looked confused. I shrugged. That's just how best friends talk. 6 months later, Matthew and I were married. The wedding was lavish, requiring extensive planning. Several of my former coworkers from the design department attended. During casual conversation, someone brought up Ryan. Apparently, Ryan's company had collapsed due to Amy's constant mistakes. She had started as an intern but frequently bungled contract details. Because of her close relationship with Ryan, everyone overlooked her errors. Then, her brother entered the picture. Amy's brother looked like he had a serious gambling problem the moment he appeared, one of my former colleagues recounted. He marched straight to the reception desk, demanding money from Amy and Ryan. Ryan, of course, jumped to her defense, vowing to cover whatever it cost to help her out. But it was a bottomless pit. Eventually, Amy and her brother drained him dry, leaving Ryan bankrupt. Ryan had since left San Francisco, supposedly seeking a new beginning elsewhere. There was no trace of Amy either. At that moment, Matthew came over, shooting a quick, wary glance at my former coworkers before turning to me with his usual kind smile. "What are you all talking about, Monica?" he asked, his voice light but his eyes betraying a hint of jealousy. "Oh, nothing important," I said, slipping my hand into his.